On the LDSE project, we are collecting some valuable data from teachers about their practice of developing, using, and reusing teaching designs, which we call pedagogical patterns. A pedagogical pattern captures the properties of teaching practice which are critical to learning. It contains the key parameters of a learning design, such as its title, learning outcomes, and methods, and suggests how to carry out specific learning activities. A pattern is specified at a high enough level that the content can be changed depending on the subject that's being taught. This makes it easier to capture learning activities and share learning designs with others. The research tool you're about to use contains several pedagogical patterns and allows you to quickly and easily change their parameters. This should make it easier to see how you can adapt and reuse a pattern for your own needs. You can help with this research by trying out 4 tasks on our system. Type your name to get going and provide us with your email if you want us to contact you about the results. Then start by clicking the Task 1 button. In the first task, we'll take a look at pieces of teaching designs known as pedagogical patterns. You can try to fit your own teaching ideas inside any of 6 generic patterns. Browse through our sample collection of 6 patterns, which are available at the bottom left of the screen. Pattern 1 is titled Effective System Inputs on Outputs. Let's first read its description on the left before we see it in full. The learning outcome for this pattern is to develop an awareness of the behavior of a system or a model, and this pattern achieves that outcome by several means. Experimenting to achieve a target output from a system or model, collaborating to improve on that achievement, collaborating to explain the achievement of a target, negotiating on agreed conclusions, and reflecting on teacher feedback. Now if we look on the right, the generic form of Pattern 1 is given. Notice that the bold headings are the same as those that are listed as the means specified for this pattern on the left. The 3 empty boxes can be changed depending on the subject being taught. Let's see how that works. At the bottom of the pattern's description, there are some examples of how Pattern 1 can be used in some very different subject disciplines. Selecting the information literacy example fills in the boxes with the example teaching content and also inserts the same content in the appropriate places in the pattern text. Selecting a different example fills in different content. In another example, the subject is climate change, but the teaching pattern underlying it stays the same. Notice the changes in the boxes as well as the pattern text. This is a very short example of how a generic pattern can be used in 2 different subject domain areas. You can try this out for yourself by setting up one of these generic patterns with your own content. Simply select a pattern that you'd like to use for your own teaching and type in your own material into the boxes at the top. The text below will be changed automatically, and that's it. You've adapted a pedagogic pattern to your own teaching purposes. When you've finished, go on to tasks 2 and 3. Here you can further adapt the pattern text to serve the very specific conditions you might have. For example, in your setting, you might have 16 students and might choose to change the group size to 4. You can also make changes to other parts of the pattern, editing the text and adding or removing activities to suit the needs of your own learning design. When you've finished, the other 2 boxes in this screen are for you to tell us a little bit more about the chosen pattern that you adopted. In the box at the bottom, labeled Task 3, we would like your reflections on the viability of our approach to the important issue of reuse of teaching ideas. After that, submit your pattern and go on to Task 4. In Task 4, you can try to write a new pattern of your own by using an example instance from teaching practice and making it generic. We'll use an interactive template that's focused on how-to learning. Creating the design with the template is easy. You first specify the learning outcome for your design. The idea here is to describe the outcome in a way that captures what the students are going to be able to do, be able to understand, what they're going to gain, etc., as a direct consequence of the pattern we're describing. The template also prompts you to describe the method you'll use to achieve the learning outcome specified. Now you can describe the activities this method will use to achieve the learning outcome, and you can also group these activities into segments. Here we have eliciting practice, one of the methods we described above. Elicitation of student current practice requires some space for students to share their individual experiences. We can create that space inside segment 1 by adding an activity. Since the very first activity is about students sharing their experiences and conceptions, we select that from the list. With the opening activity selected, we type in what is going on inside this activity. We're going to leave the default 10 minutes duration. Notice that the segment 1 time allotment is now 10 minutes, which is the same as the duration of the activity inside. This number will increase automatically as activities are added. Several other segments and activities can be added to the design in this way. In the finished version of this pattern, the design has 4 main segments of activities: elicitation of student practice, information dissemination, reflective practice, and collaborative evaluation. These are the targets we need to hit with this design in order for students to achieve the learning outcome specified at the top. We now have a complete design for teaching that is potentially very reusable by other teachers. Before submitting the design, we can make final changes and check the time specified is correct, and so on, in tasks 5 and 6. Here you can color code the non-generic parts of your design so that others can see your design's potential for reuse, and not only within your subject or practice domain. It will be particularly helpful if you can highlight the generic and specific parts of your pattern's design. Notice that by doing this, we are reflecting on the design for its potential to serve a similar purpose within our own practice. This would equally be a part of teacher training, the domain in which the original design comes from. Aside from teacher training, this pattern could be useful in any domain where professional development and training are taught. When you are finished, please provide some reflective notes. Finally, in Task 6, please provide some reflective notes on the process itself. When you've finished, click on the Submit button to complete the process. Your help will be extremely valuable to us in understanding how teachers can reuse content. From the entire LDSE team, thanks again for your help.